Hi everybody, good afternoon here in the UK. I've been asked for quite some time now to post a video of my simulator and the building of my simulator. So if I get straight into it, my simulator, I'm really fortunate that I live with an office outside. So looking right ahead is the office, and the only thing in this office really, if we go on through, is the simulator itself. So we'll go through and you have a look. Well, there it is. It's a full-size mock-up really. It's a KLM 737, and if we start with the outside, well, there's a lot of wooden panels. These beautiful lights, that's just a curtain pole, and if you have a look inside, you see they've just got strips of 3 12-volt LEDs that run off a PC set power supply. The graphics up there, I've used KLM because that's the flight model I'm using. I haven't asked KLM's permission, but this is for home use only, so I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem. I may do in the long run if anybody says anything. Down the sides I've got again some KLM branding and just a couple of 3 strip LED 12-volt LEDs, just to give that a bit of character in the evening. So up here in the office outside, I've got an Ethernet hub that distributed all the way around this office. Really fortunate the office is completely electronic. The base of the simulator is just a 3 by 2 meter wooden thing that you can see underneath. There's a step under there so that we can put stuff under the simulator should we need it. Came in handy when I was setting down the yoke itself into the floor, which I'll talk about very shortly. Well, there you can see the whole thing. Whole thing's sitting there on the ground. I think we're at Edinburgh there on runway 30, right at the end, pre-engine start. But what I wanted to show you, this is in response to a lot of people asking me how I put this all together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you to the dirty end. So I'm going to take you behind the simulator itself, and we'll go and have a look down the side and the back. So the sides need finishing right now. I'm just going to put some panels up just to box it in really and stop any light coming in from the windows. But it's just about finished. These obviously need just pushing in and finishing off. But if we go around the back, you'll see there's a lot of carpentry. There are some speakers up here for the outside world. A little bit of, this is an old building, so there's a little bit of damp coming through. I've got some anti-damp stuff down there, and the walls are due for a new paint. I apologise for that. So right now you can see basically it's a wooden mock-up. A lot of carpentry gone into the mounting there of the overhead panel. You can see that the only way we could really mount the panel was we positioned it in the right place using strings, and then we kind of built the frame around it, myself and a colleague in the village, and it really is secured onto the roof itself. So a lot of woodwork, basically small panels from our local DIY. There's a speaker down there, speaker on the other side, and basically there's speakers all the way around to give it that surround sound. Here's the main speaker unit. Power supply up here is for the overhead, so I run a separate power supply just for the overhead itself. There's a cabling coming down from the overhead, power going in. I've also got some power going into some backlighting on there that you'll see in a while, and basically it's a single USB that comes down on the back. Very neat. I hope you'll appreciate that. I've tried to put a lot of effort into keeping as neat as we can and labelling as much as I can. Basically we've just got some power extenders. Major power units are down there providing the whole simulator. For the front screen graphics, I've got 3 big monitors, 24-inch monitors here, and to black it out I've actually put some grey translucent finish, which is used for car blackout, to make your car's windscreens dark. They work very well, particularly at night. I've got a light up here, it all looks beautiful in the evening, but for you to see with the camera it's much easier if I keep the lights on for now. And everything, wherever I can, is actually made black, so if you do happen to look through those side windows right now, which do not have monitors, they will in the long run, then you'll see very little through those monitors. Even blackout, this is actually blackout curtains. These things here are blackout curtains that I purchased from a local DIY shop, and I got them on offer. Obviously everything here is on offer, everything's done as cheap as possible. Looking down, 3 main computers. This is the main computer for the outside world, and drives the FSX itself, and drives all the I/O boards that I'll talk about in a second. The middle computer drives the main primary flight displays for the co-pilot and pilot, and the third computer drives the center pedestal and the lower MFD, the flight management system itself, CDU, and a few other peripherals. If we look at the control boards that we have here, we've got all I/O boards I bought from Open Cockpits. So I've got 2 USB output cards, I've got 1 MasterCard down here, and a MasterCard extender for all the inputs. A little bit of DIY, but hopefully you can see that most of them do have labels on, and I keep a spreadsheet of where every single switch goes to, in case I have to rip it to pieces. Behind the panels themselves for the co-pilot there, I've got one 19-inch monitor that's going to be changed shortly, so it'll encompass. Just to the left there is actually the co-pilot's clock, and I want the screen to be extended. I've done it on the pilot side but not on this side. Down below, a lot of wires going into the pedestal itself, and then I've blacked out the back of the co-pilot's pedals as well. And over to behind the pilot B1 seat, another monitor, strips of grey leather, just in case, to stop any light bleed through. A couple of USB hubs here to power a lot of the peripherals. One major 800 watt power supply. Now that does the pedestal, center pedestal, and it does all of the backlighting, and actually it does all the trim wheels and the motors for all the servo units as well in the pedestal that I'll show you in a moment. So that's basically it. As I said, I try and keep it as neat as possible. Just to let you know, this one powers 3 monitors. This computer, the center computer for the left and right pilot and co-pilot main instruments, drives 2 PCs, 2 monitors, and as does the third one, which is the center pedestal and the CDU, MFD, etc, etc. So that's behind. The overhead is a cheap and nasty one from Pole Dragonet, but I've done a lot to it to change that. This is just a Logitech audio system, and I'm going to turn off the lights for a moment when we go around the front. So back around the front to the unit itself. Quick look again. As I said, styled in the form of and the shape of a KLM 737-800. The seats themselves, well, I'm waiting for some proper seats, but in the interim I got these seats from a car breaker's yard. They're from an Alfa Romeo 147, and as you can see, I've even heated these, so in the winter it keeps it nice. We'll start with the center pedestal. Right now we're no power on anything up here on the overhead, so we're just on battery power at the moment. So center pedestal, we have got, if I turn all these on at a time, we've got 2 radios. Again, all of this stuff is from Open Cockpits. Nav 1, Nav 2, we've got a transponder there, we've got a fire panel here, we've got a comm system. The only thing I've I've lit up on the comms, and that'll come on when we've put battery power on. I've done all the IDs and the idents for each of the nav aids are all enabled, but the comm system itself is not fully enabled. Down here we've got ADF1 and ADF2, rudder trim, and we have some panel lights. Now for the panel lights, for the LED lights, behind here I've got lots of LED strips, 12 volt strips, purchased from Maplin's, and I power those. I've got these little, because turning brightness down on LEDs is actually quite difficult, so I got some pulse wave modulated LED control little circuit boards for about £3 UK each from eBay, which is a good deal. And I use the same up here on the overhead with the panel lights themselves, rather than try and do that from software. A lot of the front LED switching and display brightness is done through software, through an IO script from Open Cockpits. So that's the pedestal. I do have an intercom system here that is a real aircraft intercom system, purchased, in this case I purchased it from Transair, which is a flight shop in the UK, that I used to have on a little aircraft I flew. Down here we've got the cockpit door entry lights. They are enabled, so they do real things. The weather radar is dummy. It's not modelled at this time. The fire control panel is made from, and I'll show you that when I put power on. That's straight from Open Cockpits again. A lot of my stuff is from Open Cockpits. Very, very good system, and really working well. So if we just take a seat, down here, this is where I keep, I've got a friend who's an airline pilot, and these booklets he gets me when they get out of date. I know everything's online now and you can get electronic charts, but these are extremely useful, so I have made a little chart booklet holder. If we move in, you'll see immediately there's no yoke on the right hand seat. There are pedals, but I'm still waiting for a yoke. Similarly, the only other thing that's missing, there's no MCU on the right, MFD on the right, and there's no CDU, either control and display unit for nav, etc. And similarly, the lower DU is not working. Just about everything else is there. There's no nose wheel steering either, so they're the things I need to do. A couple of things I've put in. There's a little pilot's chart holder there. Also, I made a little chart holder for the front of this PFC yoke, with a little light system I got from an LED unit that was originally designed for books, and just a book reader, night book reader. So at the back of that I've got a little battery pack for this. Extremely useful, and very, very cheap, so I've not spent a lot of money on this. As I said before, the clock on the first officer's seat is actually a dummy, but the one on the pilot's seat is now up and running, and when I put power on, you'll see that. As I said, the 3 screens come through. You'll see the dark effect. Sorry, I've got the finder's webs here. The dark effect from just putting that blackout stuff. The blackout's also on the front screen, so once you get light coming through, it's actually beautifully enabled and looks proper. For the windows and the window, this is just some leather I got from a car valeter and car upholsterer, which is local to where I live. I got some foam and then just covered it, and actually it's done a really nice job. Again, I'm on a tight budget, so this has been going on for a couple of years now, and it's really worked well. So I'll just put a little bit of power on. This will be the last bit of this particular video, just to show you how everything works in the short term. So we've got the Pole Dragonet overhead and the aft overhead. If I just turn the lights on, the light up there that you can see, that's just again purchased from a local DIY shop. I replaced the small filament 6-volt bulb with an LED, and then I put a different resistor to change the brightness from the overhead here. So bright position, off, dim position reflects on that light. So the rest of it is basically untouched apart from the backlighting. Some more LED strips I'll just put behind, and I showed you the power for that earlier on. So I just put some battery power on. I'll unpause the simulator itself. Right, so we're unpaused. Hopefully you can hear the noise. All the lights are coming on, and we'll put some power on there. Okay, and what I'll do, I think, just to complete this is to you see there straight away we've got the co-pilot, sorry, the captain's instruments are coming up. But what I'll do, I will put power on and just show you it all powered up and show you some of the features. So let's start the APU. The gauge for the APU I have enabled, and it's the only gauge in the overhead that I feel I need to enable. So if we start that, there's a little servo behind there, an open cockpit servo again, and yeah, some crafty scripting gets you some really good results. Hopefully you can see that the exhaust gas temperature is rising for the APU, so that should go up through about 940 degrees and then drop down to about 440, 450, and then we should get power available. Once I get power available, I'll put that on and I'll show you some of the other functions on startup. There we go. So power's coming, sorry, temperature's coming back down. I have full checklists, but I'll go through some other videos on how we do this. But put some lights on wheel well, put some wing lights on. I'll put some logo lights on and external lights. I'll put on the emergency exit lights and some hydraulics once I turn the generators on. So the generators are on, the hydraulics are now on, and I'll put some fuel pump on because we do take fuel for the APU from the left-hand tank. So looking up, if we look up, I'm going to turn on the window heat and turn on the pitot probe, and I'll give some air conditioning in the back of the aircraft from the APU bleed air, and then we are all good. I'll turn on some trim air and put the galley power on so we can have a cup of tea. But what I wanted to show you now was that everything lit up. Now we've got our CDU, so we can put a position in. We're at Edinburgh, so EGPH. I'll put that in, and what I will do just at this stage is I'll just start up the inertial nav system. So we have two INS, so we should wait for an align light here. We've got an align, we'll do the same on this side. Unalign, and then I get prompted immediately down in the CDU for input of a correct position. And now we should start getting some alignment. While we're doing that, let's just have a look. So down at the fire panel again. So now we've got some fire panel checks enabled. We've got a fire test enabled down in the cargo hold. What else have we got that I could show you? We've got trim enabled now, so there you go, there's the trim wheel spinning fore and aft, and we've got, now these are all motorized. So for the trim wheel itself, I use a 12-volt motor from a Fiat Punto, would you believe, which I've geared up inside here. Similarly for the servos here, I use air traffic control, I use radio controlled servos from an aircraft model shop, and the same for the speed brake as well. So they're all fully armed and fully capable. If we go through the ground proximity warner, you should hear the standard calls.
Wind shear, wind shear, wind shear. Terrain, terrain. Hold up. Sink brake. Hold up. Don't sink. Too low, terrain. Too low, gear. Too low, flat. Wide slope. Bank angle, bank angle.
Approaching minimums. Minimums. 2,500. 1,000. 500. 400. 300, 200, 100, 50, 40, 30, 20.
So as that
10.
rumbles on, I'll continue doing some tests here.
Too low. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. 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 Pull up.
And I can show you that all these recall switches work. These were quite difficult. All I got here was the cover. Again from, no, this time I got these from Paul Dragonet, but there's no circuit board behind them, nothing behind them to power them. So I had to build a little circuit board. I used some little switches, some springs, and mounted that behind such that they work on both sides. And similarly, all of these work as well. So when I press the fire warning, you'll see we get fire lights as well. The EFIS on both sides, again, that one and that one come from open cockpits, as does the MCP, the main control panel for flight. Fully functional and done through a SIOC script. If you're not familiar with these terms, I apologize. Right, we can see now everything's up and running. The main pilot, PFD, all controllable by these switches, so we can change the configuration here throughout. Everything's enabled. And if you can see down here by doing that, the only monitor that I don't have, as I said, is this center one. A little bit difficult to fit. I'm working on that with my colleague who's helped me build this whole thing. The EFIS system is fully swept up. Everything works. We can change the configuration. We can go into flight plan modes. We can change just about everything on this system. And it is fully functional. The standby instruments are done by a monitor at the moment. The flap gauge. Flap gauge is, again, this is geared, and the flap system is completely geared. It works fully. Up here we've got flap indicator panel, INS panel now alive. Down here we've got the electrical system, so everything is up and running as it would be on a Boeing 737. The one thing I have done which annoys my wife intensely is I've got the attendant core here. That actually goes to the kitchen and will bing bong in the kitchen, which is awfully sad. Anyway, that's the end of this short video. I'll just show you the test functions that we've got before I do that. So if we do a full light test, and up here on the thing, hopefully you'll see that it's quite a system. It's taken about 2 years to get to this stage, but as I say, it's never done, and I won't really be happy when it is done, because it won't give me anything to do in a lonely, rainy evening in the UK. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video. The next one, I'll see if I can do a little bit of flying and show you how the simulator flies. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.